I have an architecture studio in Riga, and perhaps my childhood experiences influenced my choice of profession. And both my parents are artists, and I saw strange things around me in my childhood. Like, I saw how they rubbed themselves into a yarn, and how they built houses out of glass, or even bird cages where to lock themselves in. I was fascinated that there are ideas behind those things, and how those ideas are connected to real things. This is my backyard. It looked like a construction site for most of the time. I remember myself thinking, well, I could become an artist, or maybe a filmmaker, or maybe a musician, and I'm still interested in those things. But I chose to study architecture because it has a materiality, and behind the materiality there's an idea, an emotion. And I think it's very important for people who use the space, the architecture. Since then, I had a chance to work on interesting projects. Those projects represented state, nation, and culture, and to make culturally and emotionally charged space, I looked into nature. This is, by the way, concept scale model for Expo, for Soviet Pavilion in Expo in Seville, by my father, and that black spot is my dog in my childhood. But 20 years later, I had a phone call. It was late autumn of 2009, and a friend called me, and he asked my opinion on who are the most progressive Latvian architects. And I told, I was joking, I told, you made the right call, and I'm listening very carefully. But he told, well, he's speaking seriously, because he was working on Latvia's participation in next Expo in Shanghai. And he wanted to invite architects to discuss about ideas, how the Latvian Pavilion should look like. So there actually was an interesting idea. Latvia wanted to show flying people, performances with flying people, and it's possible with the help of vertical wind tunnel. That's a machine where, with the help of a very strong wind, people can really fly. So there was a content, but content needed an architecture. So Shanghai Expo was the biggest exposition in history. There were 240 pavilions and up to 1 million visitors every day. But Latvia's budget was tiny because of financial crisis at that time. For comparison, it was 10 times smaller than the budget of Finland's pavilion. So there was a big question how to stand out between all those countries. There was a wind tunnel, which represented advances in technology making, but we also needed to show Latvia as a flexible and creative country. So I decided to make a pavilion as a light and kinetic object. And the key, I thought, was the wind. We actually designed this small plastic piece, and I imagined that the pavilion would consist of 100,000 of those leaves, and they will sway in the wind. The pavilion, actually, this simple idea will make the picture of Latvian nature, and we got the commission. But actually, it was a bit crazy, it was insane, because the government asked us if it's still possible to do it, because only 6 months were left until the opening, and usually states are doing this for 2 years. So I told, yes, it's absolutely possible, we can do it, no problems. But actually I had a huge responsibility on me, and I remember I was 25 years old at that time, and in order to make this work done, I thought I need to tell I'm older, and then I told I'm 27. I went for the first time to China, and this was the first thing I saw there in the morning when I opened my eyes, and I understood, okay, I'm not in Riga anymore, and it's totally different, and it was. We did the pavilion, we made it, it looked like this. So the wind made the architecture. It was changing all the time. Sometimes it looked like a sea. Sometimes it looked like a lake in the evening. When the wind was more powerful, sometimes it even became transparent. It dropped the shadows, and there was this sound. The sound from the leaves.
各位游客，晚上好，欢迎参观中国2010。
So, with the budget 10 times smaller than average, Latvia became one of the top 10 countries in Shanghai Expo, and the pavilion gained huge attention. And one of the visitors invited me to create my next project, and I called it Shaolin Flying Monks Temple. The location for the project, Songshan Mountain, it's actually very beautiful, amazingly beautiful place in China, in middle China. It's the home for Shaolin Monastery. So this is the place. And it turned out that it's not only a very beautiful place, but it's also a cradle of Chinese civilization. The first Chinese capital was there in ancient times, and ancient Chinese called this place the center of heaven and earth. So it's somewhere in between. So there's a huge cultural background to this place. But there's a problem because China has a big plans for urbanization. They plan to move 300 million people from countryside to cities in time of 25 years. Imagine 300 million is the population of United States. So it will make a radical changes in China's landscape. And it happens also here. Then I had a feeling that we need to somehow protect this place. I need to emphasize the beauty of the nature and culture of this place. And the Songshan landscape has its own patterns and textures and mood. And in order to emphasize this thing, I only need to continue this feeling. So I decided to make a building as a continuation of the mountain so that people can climb up to the top of it. And the shape of the building was inspired by the silhouette of the Songshan mountain. Above that mountain, the monk will fly. So the main event here is flying. And there's an old myth in China about Shaolin monks that fly, which comes from the old times. And we want to show this myth in a new light by making flying performances, and we are negotiating with Shaolin monks, and I hope it will happen soon. So I would like to show a small video from a film that we are making about this project. So this building is quite complicated. The organic shape of it, like all the details are very different in the building, and inside constructions are cut with the lasers in modern factories, but we will make stone surface of it, like the steps where people can climb. We will make them from local stone, and we find a very special stone in local quarries in the same mountain. So there's a connection with this place, and local craftsmen will make these steps. The construction is moving very slowly, but I hope it will be finished this summer, and I hope that Shaolin monks will fly. But the ideas that this project contains, hopefully will start a new life in a new project, which is very close and important for me as a Latvian, and it's an open-air stage for Latvian song and dance celebrations, which is very important ritual for Latvians. It's actually a manifestation of Latvian culture. It started 150 years ago, and now it happens every 5 years, and it gathers around 100,000 visitors from all over Latvia and world, and sometimes it's even compared to a religion. So I think that the place where this event happens is a sacred place for Latvians. Initially, a new wooden structure was built every 5 years, and this is one of those. But in Soviet times, in 1950s, a permanent structure was built in Riga. However, there were some elements from Soviet propaganda, but still, after several reconstructions, the venue hosts the event, but it needs radical changes. We need more seats for visitors, we need more seats for choir people, and we need to improve acoustics. But I think the most important thing is to make a new image that would serve the Latvian values and ideas for, let's say, next 100 years. The question is how to make a sacred place for Latvians. How should it look like? And Latvian folklore, the world around us is explained through nature. Latvians absorb the nature and live by its principles. So I think the nature is a sacred place for Latvians. And the Latvian temple is nature. That's why I propose to make National Open-air Stage as a Latvian landscape. The tribune would be like a hill where to climb, and climbing, I feel, it's like a pilgrimage. It's like a raising above, that's a daily life. And then there's a roof on the top of the hill, and the roof is like a forest. It protects people from rain and wind. And there's a silver grove in Latvian mythology. It's a symbol that symbolizes the highest values, purity and honesty. And then there are elements who changes, like the scenography or acoustic elements, and we make them like a leafage of the forest that changes according to seasons. We make this project in similarities with nature. Now this project is on paper. It's very small chance that it will be made until 2018, when there's a 100 years anniversary of Latvia. It needs a political agreement between municipality and state. I hope sooner or later it will be built. But I think we need a discussion about the ideas, values, and vision that will be like a Latvian vision for next 100 years. And we need it now because it's our future. And in the end, to put it simple, I would like to say that nature inspires me and it's powerful. Thank you.